Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here with a Power Rangers movie news discussion. Not news, movie discussion. Just a movie discussion. I'm just so used to saying news. So, this happened a little while ago where someone said that they leaked an old completed version of the Power Rangers movie script from 2019, and this came out a few days before the recent rumors about the movie, and I wanted to discuss them. I'm going to kind of discuss the broad strokes. If you look it up, there's like full-on character descriptions and all kinds of little details about that, but I kind of wanted just to discuss the big concepts about this and how it relates to the recent news. Because if you didn't know, I did a video on it. The recent news was that they're going to be delaying the Reboot movie and universe a little bit to ensure that they have the right approach, because they're a little bit gun-shy about, things like Snake Eyes and the way the old Power Rangers movie did, and they don't want to have a flop on their hands. So rumor has it they're taking a step back and it's going to be delayed a little bit. And I'm kind of curious if some of the aspects of the script could be why. Again, I'm only going to go over broad strokes. We're going to start off with 3 Rangers, apparently. One of them is going to be female Red, which I have no problem with. I don't really think that's a big deal. I feel like there's aspects people are going to make a bunch of drama over and just needlessly. But female Red, starting with the group of 3 Rangers, red, blue, and yellow, so your classic Team 3 setup. And then pink and black would be introduced at the end. I think that part of the point of the movie seems to be introducing them and setting them up to, I don't know if they would have suited up at the end or they would key them up to suit up in the sequel, but the point is we would get a full team of 5 by the end. It would involve some sort of time travel element, which is what we already knew, that they might be delving into past teams, and it gets a little more into specifics, and it says it's time travel to the 90s, but it's also a different dimension, and they would visit different Rangers throughout history, and they would get different Zords and suits based on those old Rangers, and Lord Zed might have been back, and that's what was going on with that. Again, that's stuff we kind of knew from the broad strokes, but apparently this was in the new script. Also, the team was going to be pre-established, so it wouldn't be an origin story like the 2017 movie, and those are the key details I wanted to discuss, was the time travel multiverse stuff, the team of 3, and the established team. And honestly, on paper, setting aside any franchise, movie, marketing, all that stuff, this sounds like kind of a cool idea for a Power Rangers story. It honestly almost sounds like the premise of an anniversary season, which you guys know how much I love those. But there's some cool ideas in here for a Power Rangers story, but I don't think it's the right approach for your first reboot movie and your first reboot movie that might be intending to launch a universe. I think, in general, it's needlessly confusing, and as cool as it might be to hardcore fans, tying it to this many different seasons, I think, would be a massive mistake when you're trying to get a broader audience. I feel like the hardcore fans tend to only want them to focus on them, but if they only focus on all 7 of you, then they go bankrupt, and we want them to get a broader audience. So I think that they needed to take a more focused approach, and that's kind of my problem with this. It almost sounds like they're trying to be a Spider-Man No Way Home Flashpoint movie. If you don't know, those are 2 upcoming movies from Marvel and DC that's going to be involving kind of a multiverse story looking at different areas of the franchise. And Flash, technically, it's his first movie doing that. Flash's first outing is this big movie. But Marvel and DC, they're Marvel and DC. They can afford that and Marvel is just now diving into the multiverse and the big screen. But you know what I mean. They can afford that because they're well known. I don't think Power Rangers can afford, let's travel to the Wild Force world. And the audience what the F is a Wild Force? So I don't think that is a smart idea. I think on paper, the idea of them having suits and stuff that are based off of the old teams is kind of cool. My mind actually immediately went to the designs from Kamen Rider Revice, where there are these designs based off of different animals, and they're also based off of an old writer, but it's really blended together well, and something like that could actually be kind of cool. I don't know about just for the movie, I don't think so. At least for the first one, but I think in general it could be kind of cool. And also the way this is phrased seems weird, where it's time travel, but it's also a different dimension. It almost makes it sound like they're trying to travel back to the 90s and they accidentally end up in a parallel world. And I think that could be confusing too. So even though there's some cool ideas here, I'm almost wondering if once this was completed, they realized it was a bit too busy and a bit too confusing for a casual audience, and that's why they're taking a step back. I think there's some neat ideas here, but I think they need to make it less confusing. As mad as that's going to make hardcore fans, as much as we are sick of MMPR in a lot of ways, if they do anything with this, I think the smartest play would be to narrow it to only MMPR 90 stuff in regards to when they travel to. I know people are going to be like, MMPR, there's enough of it and all that stuff, but again, you have to think about if they want to reach a broader audience, it would, as much as I hate it in a way too, it would be smarter to do that. If you want to tie it into this in any way, that actually might be a really smart play. The way this sounds is you get your own sort of new universe reboot, but then if you tie it to the 90s, you hit the nostalgia crown, so you get the best of both worlds, Hannah Montana style again. And again, I think that would be the best option for this. And if you want to delve into other seasons later, or the idea of suits to echo other seasons, don't do that in the first movie. I think that's a big mistake. I think at max, just do the MMPR thing. Also, something that's interesting is about, like I said, they're already pre-established and no origin. And I'm going to be honest, that disappoints me a little. I'm a sucker for a good origin. I think it's a little bit in response to the way the 2017 movie was perceived as slow. A lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't just bright colors and explosions. I'm going to be honest, that was one of my favorite things about it, because especially at that time, we were severely lacking in meaty Power Rangers content with actual good characters and story. So I cared much more about the characters and story than I did the shallow stuff. But so I can see why they are doing this if they are going to continue with that approach of an established team, and I think it's only smart. Again, this is an aspect where even if it's not what I personally want, I think they might be making a smart play with that. And I do think the idea of starting with a team of 3 and leading to a team of 5 at the end is smart, and I kind of hope they keep that, because I think starting with a team of 3 that's not unique to us, because we're used to team of 3s being in the mix, but I think it could be a good way of showing that this isn't just going to be MMPR 2.0. It makes it a little bit unique. And then by having a team of 3 established at the beginning, and then a team coming full circle with 5 at the end, is a good way of having an established team, but using these 2 new characters as like POV characters to do a sort of origin, so you can kind of engross the audience into the world while also having it pre-established for action. So I think that's smart. Bottom line is, I think there's some interesting stuff here. I think that there's bits and pieces from the skeleton of this that I wouldn't mind them using, but I think they need to dial it way back. I think going this big for this new reboot universe and possibly tying it to a bunch of past seasons would be a mistake. You know, at most, if they were to do another season, I could say maybe do Time Force, and don't make it like Power Rangers Time Force for the hardcore fans, Time Force, Jen and Wes. Like, just bring in like Aaron Cahill, or don't even have to bring in Aaron Cahill. You could bring in just a Time Force Ranger, and for the casual audience, something like, this is a Power Ranger from the year 3000 that wants you to find the 90s MMPR Rangers, would be the only thing I could think of that would be something a little bit extra without being too confusing. But I want to know what you guys think of these ideas and what you would do. Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell. See notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.